All right, let's talk about something we all deal with every single day but probably never really think about: output design. It is the invisible craft behind every report, every invoice, every dashboard we see. It's all about turning raw data into something we can actually understand. So let's dive in and demystify it.
I mean, of course, right? We have all been there, staring at a spreadsheet or a bill, just a wall of numbers and codes, and feeling totally lost. That frustration, that's not on you. That is a failure of design. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
And here it is in a nutshell. On the left, you've got data chaos. It's confusing, it's intimidating. On the right, data clarity. It's the exact same information, but the design makes all the difference in the world. Our goal here is to figure out the magic that turns that mess on the left into the clear, useful masterpiece on the right.
Okay, first things first, let's get on the same page with the language. In the world of system design, any piece of information that a system spits out for a person to use is called an output. Simple enough. But they come in a couple of different, really important flavors.
So you've got your internal outputs. Think of this as information for the home team. These are things like daily sales reports for managers, inventory lists for warehouse staff, or performance dashboards for the sales team. It's all about helping people inside the company do their jobs better.
And then you have external outputs. This is the information that goes out into the world. Things like the invoice you get from an online store, a shipping confirmation, or a purchase order sent to a supplier. This stuff is the public face of your company's data, so it has to be crystal clear.
Now here's where it gets really clever. There's a special type of external output called a turnaround document. It has this cool boomerang effect. It's designed to go out from the company and then come right back in as a new piece of data for the system.
The perfect classic example is that little tear-off portion at the bottom of your utility bill. It goes out to you, that's the output, with your account number and the amount due. Then you send it back with your payment, they scan that barcode, and bam, it becomes an input that logs your payment in their system. It's a really smart, efficient design.
All right, so now we know who these outputs are for. Let's talk about what they look like. It's useful to think of different report types as a set of tools in a toolbox. You wouldn't use a hammer to saw a board, right? Same idea here. You need the right report for the right job.
And picking the right tool is everything. A detailed report, for instance, gives you the whole story, every single transaction. A summary report is for the manager who doesn't need all that detail. They just want the big picture, like total sales by store. And then you've got the exception report. This one is a real specialist. It's designed to scream, "Hey, look at me," by only showing you the problems, like customers with overdue payments.
But sometimes the best report isn't a report full of text at all. And that brings us to the visual side of our toolbox: charts and graphs. These things are absolute game changers for spotting patterns and trends that would be nearly impossible to see in a big table of numbers.
Bar charts are your best friend when you need to compare things. How are sales in the East versus the West? You can just glance at a bar chart and know instantly. Each bar is its own category, so that side-by-side comparison is just immediate.
Donut charts and their cousin, the pie chart, are all about showing parts of a whole. So if you want to see what percentage of the market your company has compared to competitors, a donut chart is perfect. It gives you that at-a-glance understanding of how the whole pie is divided up.
And of course, the trusty line chart. If you need to see how something changes over time, like your website traffic over the last year or monthly profits, nothing beats a line chart. It's the absolute best way to visualize trends, to see the ebbs and flows in your data.
So, we have all these amazing tools in our toolbox, but just having the tools isn't enough, right? You need to know how to use them. That's where the blueprint comes in, a core set of rules that should guide every single design decision. Seriously, if you take away only one thing today, let it be this. This is the golden rule. It doesn't matter how fancy your chart is or how much data you cram onto a page, if the person looking at it can't figure out what it means quickly, the design has failed. Period. So how do we make things simple? Well, it's about the fundamentals. You need a clear title and a date. You gotta label everything, every column, every axis. You have to get rid of confusing computer jargon, and you need to give the information some breathing room. Balance it on the page so it doesn't feel overwhelming.
This right here is a perfect, tiny example. A computer might think of a date as just a string of numbers, but for a person, that's just gibberish. A tiny bit of formatting, turning it into something we instantly recognize, makes a world of difference. It's about designing for humans, not for machines.
And beyond simplicity, there are three other pillars. First, timing.
A report about last month's sales isn't very useful if it shows up next month. Second, distribution. The right information has to get to all the right people. And finally, and this is a big one, it has to be acceptable to the users. It has to fit into their actual workflow and make sense for them.
Okay, we've got our toolbox full of reports and charts. We've got our blueprint of design rules. So let's bring it all home and look at how designers actually put this into practice to go from a vague idea to a polished, effective output.
It's not magic. It's a process, and it usually follows these 4 steps. You start by figuring out what the user actually needs to see. Then you think about the physical side. Is this going to be on a screen, printed out? Then you deal with any pre-printed forms. And finally, the most important step, you actually design it, and then validate and test it with real users.
In that last part, the testing is all about prototyping. You don't just build a final version on your first try. No way. You start with rough sketches, maybe move to a more polished digital layout, and eventually create working prototypes. It's this cycle of designing, getting feedback, and refining that leads to a great final product. So, I'm going to leave you with a challenge. The next time you glance at your bank statement, a dashboard at work, or even just a simple receipt, take a second look. Don't just absorb the information, analyze the design. Ask yourself, why does this work? Or why doesn't it? Because once you start seeing the design behind the data, you'll become a much smarter consumer and creator of information.